Oh, this is an interesting part. So this is a color dodge layer, and I wanted I wanted this bounce light feeling, which wasn't really in the original render. So that's where I use the vertex normal. So you know how like sandstone tends to catch a lot of light and then reflect it and bounce it, and you get this very warm red kind of glow sometimes. So I thought, okay, if the sun lights here, it would bounce probably on the purple surfaces because it's the face opposite of it. So what I do is I select this surface and I create a new layer, set it to color dodge because that's kind of the blending mode that simulates that kind of bounce light, very saturated the most. I leave the mode of the brush to linear dodge so I can paint over it to intensify it. I don't have to stick with one value. And then I take like a very dark saturated color. And then like you can like really nicely paint in this kind of like bounce lighty feeling.
This is awesome.
Yeah, these are so cool tips.
It's set a little bit too harsh now, so I'll just lower the opacity. And you might have to play around with the settings of the color a little bit. And you can easily also suggest like torches or something going on inside the street. Like there would be a light source below, and it actually takes the details of the geometry. Like it's a little bit dirty, but you can see your your model geometry is actually there. I don't have to do any selections. It's just all based on the vertex normal here
That is
also.
so cool. Yeah, that vertex normal map. That's a game changer.
It is. I mean, this is 3 days of selection work saved.
Mm.
That normally you would have to like hand select all these faces, and still you wouldn't get the same amount of detail because you can see it perfectly follows the geo there.
Yeah, and I think something for that's just cool to keep in mind is like going over it and doing a pass of your environment and really thinking about that bounce light. And if you're not getting enough of it, not just looking at how the light is hitting your strong direct light facades, but then looking at what you can do to make the shadow sides more interesting and add a little more form to that structure by bringing up that bounce light.
Yeah, because no matter how good a renderer works, it's always going to look a little bit flat and not interesting compared to like a movie set where they light everything until it's perfect from every side. So you have to give it a little bit of love personally. Just go in there and like artistically choose where to add. And I usually check the image also in grayscale value just to see if like the value structure kind of makes sense where I'm adding it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Huh.
So yeah, I'm just doing this randomly.
Ian asks in the chat, do you use color dodge with sundown scenes?
With what?
Sundown, like when the sun is down after sun is set scenes.
I use color dodge wherever. um, I don't think it really matters that much, what exactly the light source is or the sun position or whatever. I think you just have to understand which blend mode to use when. And when it's about saturation, like very strong saturation, I think color dodge is the winner because just of how that algorithm works. Generally, I think if you want the most realistic way of how light reacts in the real world, you should just use additive because real light is additive. Um, like if you want to do stuff like lens flares or bloom, you should not use color dodge unless you want that like really over the top saturated look. I think linear add or screen, but screen is a bit too soft. I think screen is better for smoke or some things that are semi-transparent. But just for light, I would say you should use linear add to have the most non-destructive realistic effect. So for example, let's say that I want a bloom here on this highlight. Usually the linear add will give me the most like realistic, natural looking effect in terms of glow. It just blends nicely without oversaturating it. You can see that color dodge is like really strong. I'm using the same color and here's like red, super saturated. It like the curve to the saturation like peaks up very quickly with color dodge, which linear add does linearly and not exponentially. That's the main difference. Um, I think color dodge is great for creating a neon effect, so to speak, because of the saturation. Or for bounce light, you can use a linear add for bounce light as well, but color dodge gives it a bit more that like it looks a bit more painterly, because you know how like classical painters, to do bounce light, they would just use a really saturated red or blue or something without trying to like put in a natural tone. It's just like full on bam, there's like a bright red highlight there, which simulates this bounce light, but a bit extreme on the extreme side. So that's where I would use color dodge.